All right, my colleague Siddhant Sibal now joins us live from the US. Siddhant, all eyes on the Howdy Modi event in Houston. Excitement building up as we count down to the much anticipated event.
Well, of course, the countdown has begun, and today is the day of celebration of India-America partnership and the celebration of the role played by the Indian Americans in the American society. I'm standing at the Times Square, and a lot of Indian diaspora is expected to gather here very soon, and also in New Jersey, where there are a lot of Indian community members present, and they of course will be taking part and of course watching it live on big television screens. Howdy Modi event, this of course, as we have been saying, is the largest diaspora event in which the Indian Prime Minister is participating in United States, and the fact that the American President of Donald Trump is also participating, a sitting American President is also participating along with the Democratic leadership, shows the influence the Indian American community enjoys in this country. A beginning of a partnership, perhaps not only a beginning but a big boost to a partnership whose time has now come.
Indeed, and also Siddhant, the invitation sent out to for the Howdy Modi event includes bipartisan support. There are Democrats, there are Republicans, in addition to 50,000 plus Indian Americans in Houston coming from all over the US and also Canada. So the profile of the Indian American community has also gone up in the last few years.
Well, of course, the profile of the Indian Americans have grown in last few years. In fact, the Indian American community now plays an important role in the politics of America, and of course, to use the Indian phrase, that they are an important vote bank here in America, and America goes to election soon. So clearly, when it comes to US President Donald Trump, he is also sending a message, first of course internationally to New Delhi, that it's a close ally, and there is now a broad consensus that even despite hiccups like on the issue of trade, the partnership is something that is required in a global changing world, and both require this partnership for strategic reasons and domestically a strong message for the Indian American community, who can play a vital role, in fact who are playing a vital role in Washington and of course in the various sectors of the American society. So clearly a day of celebration of the Indian American community here in United States, from Houston to New York. There are a lot of events which are being lined up, but it's right now the focus, in fact the center of attraction, whether it's India or whether it's America right now, is in Houston. As we have been saying, this is the largest diaspora event, and it's the largest time that so many people have gathered to welcome a foreign leader, in fact to welcome a democratically elected foreign leader in America. So this shows the love, in fact, the Indian Prime Minister has when it comes to the Indian community, because I have been speaking to the Indian community who will be coming here in New York from far off places just to welcome the Indian Prime Minister when his entire day is over in Houston. He will be coming to New York, where of course the focus remains on diplomacy. So there is a lot of community, Indian community member who will be standing in front of his hotel. The hotel is just nearby to the place where I am standing, and they will be welcoming. He will be getting a rousing welcome here in New York as well, and already we have seen he meeting a lot of people in Houston. In fact, his first engagement was with the CEOs, NRG CEOs, but other than that, he also met members of the Kashmiri Pandits of the Bohra community and the Sikhs also. So it shows that the Indian Prime Minister has a big focus this time around during his visit, which is the first in his second term, but third from 2014. The big focus this time is on diaspora.
Indeed, Siddhant, do stay on the issue of Indian Americans. I want to talk a bit more about the Indian diaspora, which is all set for the Howdy Modi event. Some of them describe it as a historic event for the Indian American community in the United States. Listen in.
So I came to see the Prime Minister because it was kind of my dream. So it's really cool to meet him because I was born here, and so I don't have the opportunity. So it's really good to see him here.
So what do you think? How 50,000 people, it's going to be a unique experience, different sort of experience for you?
I think it's going to be an amazing experience, and I think the people of Houston created an environment, an atmosphere for him to really enjoy, and we're really grateful for him coming. We're really excited.
Do you think the two leaders have similar style of leadership, is it?
No, I think they're very different, but I think that's a strong suit for both leaders because we're trying to work for an alliance with India, which is very important because India is a superpower growing in the future. And I feel like America and India uniting is really good against China.
All right, you're watching the continuous coverage here on WION Berlisbon of Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US, and we are counting down to the much anticipated Howdy Modi event in Houston, Texas. And I still have with me in the studio my guest, Ambassador Arun Singh, and my colleague Siddhant Sibal continues to join us live from New York. For the moment, if I can go back to my guest in the studio, Ambassador Singh, one more time. Ambassador Singh, as we watch these visuals from inside the NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, I want us to take a step back and look at the so-called Trump-Modi bromance. Now, one American media is reporting that it is billed to be the largest gathering for any foreign leader visiting the U.S. other than the Pope. So this is huge by any standards, isn't it?
So I would point out two aspects. One, I think no foreign leader, as you mentioned, other than the Pope, would have attracted a crowd like this or worked to generate a crowd like this. Because you have to have a certain size of the community. You have to have a community that is enthused about its links with the home country and with the elected leadership of that country. So that's one aspect that is required. And I think the second thing that is important is that the US president is going to be present. Now, at prime ministers' similar events in other countries, for example, the United Kingdom or Canada, also in Kenya and Sweden, the local heads of state and government were present at the event. Again, because they recognized the value of the Indian origin community in their country and also wanted to reach out. But for this to happen in the United States, I think is very, very significant because I don't think there's another instance of a US president going to a similar community event with another leader. The second aspect that is striking me, as you can see in the visuals, the presence of a large number of young people. Because the first generation that goes from India always have a very good connect with India because they have spent time in India, they've studied here, maybe they've worked here, and then they've gone to the United States. But the second generation, many of whom either went from here when they were very young or were born in the United States, don't have the same connect with India because they've grown up in a different cultural environment. Events like this serve to deepen that connection. And if we want to build a strong relationship with the United States, with the Indian origin community, as one of the pillars and foundations, then we need to reach out to the second generation, to the younger people, because this generation that is getting involved in US politics.
Absolutely.
Because the first generation doesn't play the same role in US politics.
Absolutely.
So with them being enthused about India, them being enthused about the India-US relationship, and them wanting to contribute to deepening of that relationship through their involvement in administration and politics, will certainly have a very positive impact. So I think that's among the positive, messages coming out from here. And of course, as you can see, for the Indian community, it's like a festive event. And it's festive because they live in different parts of the US. Many of them live in isolated communities where the number of people may not be very large and they may not be meeting many Indian Americans. For them, this provides an occasion for them to come together in a cultural commonality.
Absolutely. Ambassador Singh, do hold your thoughts. I want to go across to my colleague Siddhant Sibal one more time on this discussion. Siddhant, now the Howdy Modi event in Houston can well be described as a combination of diplomacy, hardcore diplomacy, public diplomacy, and an exhibition of India's soft power, all coming together in one event in Houston in just a short, just a few minutes from now. How do you make of this this big-ticket event which projects India's soft power on the world stage?
Well, Ramesh, just before the Indian Prime Minister left for United States, in his departure statement said that his intention will be to showcase India as a reliable partner, as a global leader. And also he said that he wants to say that US is an important partner when it comes to India's development and national needs. That's an important message, and that will be one of the message among the many messages that will be sent from Houston today. Of course, it's morning here in the United States, but of course tonight in New Delhi. But this, of course, is a message that globally India is being recognized, and India is now one of the countries who shapes the global opinion. And of course, whether it's diplomacy or whether it's strategic thinking or reaching out to diaspora, that remains the big focus, whether in Houston, where both the leaders will be present together and speaking, but also throughout the week. Remember, India will be talking, in fact, the Indian Prime Minister will be talking about climate change. He will be talking about global health issues. He will be reaching out to small island countries. He will be meeting leaders of the Caribbean, the Pacific island countries. And of course, his big speech at the United Nations General Assembly. Last time he addressed the United Nations General Assembly was way back in 2014. And we all know he suggested the idea of Yoga Day that was passed by the General Assembly and now has become an annual event, which in a sense is the reflection of India's personality at the global stage. And that is what the Indian Prime Minister has been doing as part of his foreign policy outreach, reflection of the Indian society, the Indian personality on the global front. And it's not the first time a foreign leader is joining the Indian Prime Minister in a diaspora event. 2015, we saw the Indian Prime Minister along with the then Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, at the Wembley Stadium, but that was UK 2015. But today it's United States 2019, and a message of convergences between Washington and New Delhi is being sent. But only question is, who will speak the first? Where US President Donald Trump or the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi? There was a question thrown at the organizers of this event. They said that it's an element of surprise. You'll get to know soon.
All right, on that note, I'll ask my colleague Siddhant Sibal in New York to stand by for more continuing discussion on this bulletin. Also, my guest in the studio, Ambassador Arun Singh, who continues to remain with us on this bulletin. Time for a short break, actually. Keep watching WION World is One. Don't go anywhere. This is the continuing coverage of Prime Minister Modi's ongoing visit to the US and the build-up to the much anticipated Howdy Modi event in Houston, Texas.